Welcome back, everyone. Public officials found in the midst of a sex scandal, certainly nothing new. So when we heard about David Petraeus' affair, not exactly earth-shattering, maybe from him it was, certainly not someone you'd ever expect would go down that road here, but it got us to thinking, what in fact, if as he was rumored to have been considering, he decided to try to weather the storm? Word is, he thought long and hard out of it, but was talked out of it. What though if instead he came out and said, you know what, I had an affair, it was improper behavior, hopefully my wife will forgive me, I ended this 5 months earlier, there is no state secrets that were shared, and I'm doing this as an effort to come clean rather than just to cover my backside. Whether they believe it or not, given his war record and everything else, do you think he could have made it?
Head of the CIA is different than Secretary of the Interior.
So it's the job time.
It's the job, absolutely. Secretary of Interior maybe could, but not the head of the CIA.
Also the politicized times we're in. I'm not sure the head of the Interior could make it through a sex scandal at this point because there'd be so many people calling for his scalp immediately, or her scalp immediately.
Yeah, but we've seen a president survive this. We've seen a lot of lawmakers. Look at him now. I mean, look at how your image can be rehabilitated.
David Vitter won re-election.
Yeah, David Ritter.
2 years after.
David Vitter, as we know, for those who remember, the Louisiana senator, he decided to frequent the ladies of the night where money would be exchanged. Now, your old boss, obviously, at least no one had tangible evidence that there was any physical encounter, just idiotic Twitter pictures, right? But it was the lying and the indignation that many people thought it would make it impossible. Down deep, do you think if he tried to fight it out, he would have made it or no?
I think he tried to fight it out, and I think that it got dragged out. It kept going. It lasted weeks and weeks, and I think eventually that it wears you down as a person, as a husband, as a soon-to-be father, as we eventually found out. I think for public figures to survive these sort of scandals, it depends on how much it goes against what you sort of stand for. Folks like David Vitter, although he was able to get reelected, Larry Craig, he managed to somehow not resign even after he was arrested for soliciting in a bathroom.
But my point is, David Vitter, he signed the Defense of Marriage Act. I mean, he took every conservative family values position, and he managed to survive. Eliot Spitzer, as we know, Dominic, he had to throw in the towel. And I always maintained we played that soundbite from the press conference when he was Attorney General where he condemned not just prostitution as not a victimless crime here, but he went after Johns and everything else for being a huge part of it. Is the hypocrisy the biggest thing, or is it when they tell one story and then have to eat their own words?
When you're a phony, that plays a part of it. It also plays in terms of what media market you're in. Weiner was not going to survive because the Post and the Daily News determined early on that no matter what he did, they were going to make fun of him or mock the situation. He was done.
Because of the pictures in his last name, right?
Right. And I remember I covered Spitzer very close, and I know for a fact that he wanted to weather the storm. And he was looking for allies, making calls for people to stand by him. But it had reached the point where there was just no way with his constituents and with the legislature that he could survive. Everything Spitzer would have brought up, it would have turned into a sex scandal, his own sex scandal. So it depends on who you are. Bill Clinton, people liked him. People liked the economy around Bill Clinton. So in that type of situation, Americans basically looked the other way.
John Ensign had to resign, and for people who don't remember, the Republican senator from Nevada. I always thought it had to do because he lied and he covered it up. As unseemly as it was, sleeping with a co-worker's wife in the office and everything else, I always thought he could have made it if he just stepped up and said, yeah, I had a huge moral failing here and find religion, whatever he's got to do here. But instead, whenever they're weasels, they lose all sense.
That's your problem. With respect to Governor Spitzer, he had a criminal legal problem. Crossing state lines is a federal issue, federal legal issue.
I don't think that's why he tossed
He probably
in the towel,
should have been, well, at that point, the federal...
right. If he didn't step down, the feds would have
federal
brought
prosecutor
charges.
would have stepped in prosecuting, right. So it all depends on the circumstances. I think a senator is in a better position to survive than the chief executive of a major state, or now Clinton survived because that's a wholly different kind of situation. And the economy was going well. You're absolutely right, Tom.
Half the problem with these guys acting like weasels and covering it up is the stigma that they figure is associated with the cheating. If people were better with that, if people divorced the idea of marital fidelity from public service, then I think you would see different behavior in terms of the cover-up. And so you might actually have some of these people who are able to survive some of this and not focus on it the same way.
But you're voting
and I
for
think
a
the country,
person.
And I
You're
think
not
the country
just
would be
voting
better
for a
off
policy
for it.
when you vote for somebody. You're voting for a person. Fair or not, that's the reality. I happen to subscribe to that. Put it this way, no matter what I ever think of Newt Gingrich's policies, if I agree with him, the fact that somebody would do what he did to his wife, lying on a bed, would never get my vote again. And for me, that's part of the
If you've got
compact.
a doctor or a lawyer who takes care of you and you think that they're the only ones who can do it, you're probably not going to get rid of them if they're cheating on their wife or if they're
Some
cheating on their
people
husband. Some people do, but most people want to get the job done. That's what's the most important thing.
You know what? I happen to think the integrity, as Pollyannish as this sounds, matters too. And I think that if you're upfront about stuff and you say what you did and people believe it, there is a forgiveness in this country. But if they think you're doing this and you're a weasel and you're trying to be opportunistic, I think what you do in your own private life certainly matters too. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we've got the best guest to talk about the future of New York's GOP. Where does the Republican Party go from here in the Empire State? Ed Cox will give you the answer. Stay with us.